everyone, welcome to Tutorials by Dacade. My name is Dacade, and in this video we're going to add a little bit of an effect to scene transitions, just a simple fade in, fade out effect. But before I get started, if you liked any of my other videos, go ahead and give this one a thumbs up right now. And if you don't want to miss any of these videos, make sure you subscribe, as I have videos like this coming out all the time, and I don't want any of you to miss anything. With that out of the way, let's get to it. So in the last video, we made the scene transition where if you walk into the house here, you transition to a different scene. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to add a little bit of a fade in, fade out transition. So in order to do that, what we're first going to do is we're going to go to our room where we have the transition. And we are going to edit this just a little bit. So initially I had it down here. But we're going to move it up here. And the reason why we're moving it up here is so that way you don't accidentally hit that if you're just walking by the house. You want it to actually go off when you're going into the house. So if we put it something like right there, then you can walk by without the fear of actually triggering this unless you want to go into the house. So now that that's out of the way, what we're going to do is we are going to create another script. For now, we're going to put it right here. It is going to be a mono behavior script, and we are going to call it fade controller. And then once Unity's done doing all of its thing, you go ahead and open that up. I'm going to open up my notes here. All right, so what we're going to do up here is we're going to add a couple using statements. So using system.collections, and then we're also going to do using Unity engine .ui and using Unity engine scene management. Now we're really not going to do the UI in this script. I just added this in case you want to add like text or something into your transition. But yeah. So now what we're going to do is we've done this already before, I believe, but we're going to create what's called a singleton pattern. What a singleton pattern is it allows only one item to be constantly in your game, moving from scene to scene without getting destroyed. That's probably the most basic way I can say what it is. If you want to look up all the technicalities of it, you can, but that's pretty much all it is. So we're going to do a public static fade controller, call that instance, and then we're going to do a get private set. So this is starting the singleton process. We're going to come back to that here in a minute. We're going to put in our other variables that we need. So we're going to do a tooltip, and we're going to do the fade in out screen. And we're going to serialize that field. We're going to do a private canvas group. We're going to call it fade canvas group. Then we're going to do one more down here, another tooltip. And this is going to be how long the fade should last. We're going to serialize that field, and then we're going to do a private float fade duration. And we're going to default that to 1F for right now, but we can always change that later. And now we are going to complete the singleton. So first we're going to do a private void awake. And in here, we're going to check to see if there is no instance. So if instance is null, then the instance becomes this. And then don't destroy on load game object. Then we're going to check if there is an instance. So we're just going to simply put an else in there. And if there already is an instance, then we're going to destroy the game object. So what this does is this checks to see if there is already one. And if there is already one, then it just destroys this. If there's not already one, then this becomes the instance. And this is how you get consistent things going from one scene to another without having to do a whole bunch of extra code. So now what we're going to do is add a couple things. First, we're going to do a public void fade and load scene. We're going to look for a string, and we're going to call it scene name. And in here, all we're going to do is start a coroutine, which we haven't created yet, so you're going to get an error. But it's just called fade out in. And then we're going to pull up that scene name. And that's all we need to do for this little function. But we obviously are getting that error, so we do have to create the coroutine. So we're going to do a private IEnumerator fade out in string scene name. And we're still going to get an error because we haven't actually told the IEnumerator to do anything yet. So we are going to yield return start coroutine. So we are going to do another coroutine. And we're going to do fade out. And this might auto do the full name of the fade out in, so just delete the in. And now we're going to do something we haven't done before. Well, we kind of have done it before, but we're just doing it a little bit different. We're going to load a scene. What we're going to do is we're going to do an async operation. We're just going to call it async load. And then scene manager dot load scene async, and then scene name. So what this is going to do is it's essentially loading the scene, but it's keeping certain things. So whenever you load a new scene using Unity, it essentially deletes everything and then loads up whatever's actually in that scene. So in order for something to go from one scene to another scene, you have to either do a singleton pattern or you have to do this async operation. So the reason why we're doing this async operation is because this script that we're creating right now is going to run at the end of one scene and at the beginning of another scene. And if you don't do an async operation, it'll run until this new scene loads and then it'll just stop. We don't want that, obviously, because we're going to have a fade in. So that's why we're doing it this way. Anyway, while not async load dot is done. So in other words, while the async load is happening, which this is just a simple 2D game, the load time should be pretty quick, even on like slower, older computers. But if you do make a more complicated game, or you just have a bunch of stuff in your scene, then it could take a while to load. So you could also do a loading screen this way as well, but we're just doing a simple fade in, fade out. But anyway, while that is still loading, we are going to yield return null, meaning we're not going to do anything. And then once that's done loading, we're going to yield return start coroutine fade in. And again, if it changes the name, fade out in, just get rid of out. And that is all we need to do here. Now we just need to create those other two coroutines. So let's do the first one here, private IEnumerator fade in. And in here, we're going to do a temporary variable float t equals 0f. And then while t is less than the fade duration, we are going to do all this stuff. We are going to do t plus equals time dot delta time. Then we're also going to do fade canvas group dot alpha, and that's going to equal t divided by fade duration. So while this is going on, we are going to change the alpha. So the alpha is essentially how see-through something is. And we are going to change it so that way it fades in. And then we're just going to do a yield return null. And that is so that way this continues to run until this is done. Then we're going to do fade canvas group dot alpha equals 1. So what we're doing here at the end is we're just making sure that the alpha goes to full, just in case for whatever strange reason it didn't in this block of code. That's all we need to do here. So now we need to do the fade out. So private IEnumerator fade out. And then essentially we're going to do the same thing here in reverse. We're going to do float t equals the fade duration. And then while t is greater than 0, we are going to do t minus equals time dot delta time. And then fade canvas group dot alpha equals t divided by fade duration. And then yield return null. And down here, we're going to do fade canvas group dot alpha equals 0. And we're doing that just in case, for whatever strange reason, this doesn't get you to 0 on the alpha. So that is all that we need to do for here. What we do need to do, though, is we need to find where our scene transition trigger is. If you can't, I should have showed you this last time. If you can't find one of your scripts up here, because only a certain amount of them will show, there's this little drop down right here that lists all of your scripts. And we are looking for the scene transition trigger. All right. So now that we have that, there's a couple things that we need to change in here. Well, actually, really only one thing. So right here where it says scene manager load scene, we are actually going to delete that. And instead, we're going to do a fade controller dot instance dot fade and load scene, and then the target scene name. And that's really all we need to change in here. So now that that's all done, we're going to go over to Unity. And what we're going to do, we're going to go to our managers. We're going to create an empty, and we're just going to name that fade controller. And we're going to add component fade controller, which I already put it there. If it didn't do that for you, just search fade controller, and there you go. Now it's looking for a canvas group. So we have not done that yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our canvas. We're going to right click. We're going to go to UI. We're going to go to panel. And we'll just name this one the fade panel. And in the fade panel, we are going to add a, hold on one second. Canvas group. That's what we're going to, sorry, my mind went blank there for a second, but we're going to add a canvas group. We are going to make it not interactable. We are going to go up to the color, and we're going to change the alpha to full. And then you can change it to whatever color you want. I usually go with black. And then we are going to set the alpha to 0, so that way you actually see something. And now that we have that all said and done, we're going to go back to our fade controller, add that fade panel. And that should be it. So let's go ahead and hit play. Oh, there's a compiler. Ignore my dog while I try to figure out why this is. Fade out. Start coroutine. Fade out. There is no string here. I don't know why this is doing this, but okay, let's just. Fade out. Let me take a look at my notes here because I'm not sure why I'm getting that weird error while there is no string to put in to fade out. I have this exactly as my test one, and my test one works just fine. So enumerator fade. Yield return start coroutine fade out. Ah, so this is supposed to be an enumerator, not enumerable. So small stupid things like that. There we go. So now we'll go over to Unity. And now we will hit play, and now we shouldn't get any errors. There we go. It is doing what it's got to do, and now we are going to walk over and enter the house. And for whatever strange reason, that went way too fast. Let me try that again. Let me double check a couple things here because that is moving way faster than it should be. All that stuff is good. The fade panel itself. That's all good. Let me check my fade controller. For the fade out. No. I actually have these backwards. So this should be fade out. And this should be fade in. Again, small, stupid mistakes. All right, let's try this one last time. All right, here we go. And into the house we go. Look at that. And boom, there we are. So that is how you do a simple fade in, fade out, minus all the errors I made along the way. But nonetheless, I'm going to end this video here. If you've liked this video, make sure you give it a big old thumbs up, especially if you learned something. If you want to continue learning things and you don't want to miss anything, make sure you subscribe, as I have videos like this coming out all the time, and I don't want you to miss anything. With that being said, as always, thank you. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.